Roman Republic becomes Roman Empire. You can see the map how large the empire gets, starting in Italy in the light green, and then as an empire moving into the orange. Well, once the Romans had dominated the Italian peninsula, they turned to the northern coast of Africa, where the city of Carthage remained as Rome's only rival in the Mediterranean. Carthage had been founded in 814 BC by the Phoenicians and had grown into a rich and large commercial power from sea trade in the western Mediterranean. The Carthaginian domain included territory in northern Africa and the Iberian Peninsula, where Spain and Portugal are today. And trading centers on the islands of Sardinia and Corsica and Sicily to the west of Italy. The strong Carthaginian navy, made up of mercenary soldiers, fought primarily for money. They blocked Roman expansion in the Mediterranean. Between 264 and 146 BC, Carthage and Rome maintained a bitter rivalry and fought three major wars for control of the western Mediterranean. These wars are known as the Punic Wars, from the Latin Punici, for Phoenicians. The First Punic War, this first of many struggles, centered around the Carthaginian settlement on the northeastern tip of Sicily. The Carthaginians feared that once the Romans had conquered the Greek cities in southern Italy, they would move to control Sicily as well. The Romans, on the other hand, were concerned that Carthage's strong navy could use the Strait of Messina as a short bridge from Sicily to the Italian peninsula, threatening Rome's existence. The contest between Rome and Carthage was clearly unequal. The odds favored Carthage, which was rich in gold, manpower, and ships. The Romans, with a strong army, were not a seafaring people. They didn't have ships, they didn't know how to make ships. But they realized that Carthage could be defeated only if its navy was smashed. With amazing determination, the Romans built up a navy. In a series of naval battles, several Roman fleets were destroyed. Finally, however, the Romans defeated the Carthaginians in 241 BC. Sicily became the first Roman province and was made to pay for an annual tribute of grain to Rome. Later, the islands of Sardinia and Corsica were conquered and made into a single province. No longer was Roman power restricted to the Italian peninsula, and the Roman navy proved supreme in western Mediterranean Sea. The Second Punic War. This next war was War of Revenge. It took place 22 years after the First War. It had been called a conflict between the nation Rome and the man Hannibal. Hannibal was a young and ambitious Carthaginian general whose military genius has been rated as equal to that of Alexander the Great. He is said to have sworn on a sacred altar to his father, also as a general, to remain Rome's enemy for life. Hannibal forced Rome to declare war in 219 BC by attacking a Roman ally, the city of Sagento in Spain. With cavalry, African war elephants, and about 40,000 infantry, Hannibal crossed through southern Gaul and over the Alp Mountains into Italy. It was a very difficult journey to go over the mountains on elephants, and it cost Hannibal about half of his men, much of his equipment, and all but one elephant. With the Gauls of northern Italy enlisted as allies, Hannibal began to march south. To meet the emergency, the Romans made Fabius Maximus dictator. He was a cautious leader who refused to risk an all-out battle. although his policy of watchful waiting succeeded in frustrating Hannibal. It was also unpopular with many Romans who wanted a face-to-face battle. Their opportunity finally came at Caen in southern Italy, city of Cannae. There, in 216 BC, Hannibal encircled the Romans and wiped out a force at least a third larger than his own. He was stopped, however, from inflicting a mortal blow upon Rome. He dared not lay siege to Rome without reserves of manpower and supply. Because the Romans and their loyal allies controlled the seas, Hannibal was cut off from his resources. Finally, the Romans decided to open up another front under the bold leadership of Scipio the Elder. Scipio was a general believed to be Hannibal's match in terms of military strategy. Roman forces invaded North Africa, and Hannibal was forced to return home to defend Carthage. At Zama in 202 BC, Hannibal was defeated by Scipio and fled to the east to save his life. The peace terms dictated by the Romans were harsh. Carthage gave up its navy, lost its freedom in foreign affairs, paid annual tribute to Rome, and surrendered Spain. Despite these terms, the Romans were still afraid that Carthaginian power would grow once again. And sure enough, there was a third Punic War. True to the Roman suspicion, over the next 50 years, Carthage slowly regained its power. Roman resentment of this growing strength reached a peak when in 149 BC, Rome sent an ultimatum to Carthage, demanding that the Carthaginians abandon their city and settle away from the coast. Since this demand was equal to a death sentence for such a commercial power, the Carthaginians had to refuse. Rome responded by attacking Carthage and laying siege to the city, an act that kept food from coming into Carthage and led to widespread starvation. When the Romans finally entered Carthage, they burned the city to the ground and are said to have destroyed the fertility of the soil by throwing salt into the plowed fields, although this wasn't true. Thus, in 146 BC, the Third Punic War ended with the Carthaginians losing and broken. And they'll never be a power again. The few who survived were sold into slavery, and the Carthaginian lands in the North Africa became a Roman province called Africa. Shortly after the end of the Second Punic War, the Roman expansion turned eastward. After a series of wars, they defeated the Macedonians in Greece, and in 146 BC made Macedonia a Roman province. In the same year, the Romans burned Corinth in Greece and made other Greek city-states subjected to Rome. The Romans began their move into the lands that are now considered the Middle East, when in 133 BC, the king of Pergamum in Asia Minor willed his kingdom to Rome. The king apparently feared that the discontent masses in the kingdom would revolt unless Rome, with its reputation for maintaining law and order, took over. In addition, Egypt and other nearby countries allied themselves with Rome and later became Roman territories. By 100 BC, Rome controlled almost every land that bordered the Mediterranean, which the Romans called Mare Nostrum, our sea. There were political changes due to this growth. As Rome became increasingly involved in foreign affairs, the Senate grew in power and prestige by conducting state negotiations. The Popular Assembly had the power to ratify or approve treaties and to declare war, but in reality, this body acted merely to confirm the decisions of senators. The patrician class were the senators. Political power had become concentrated within the Senate, and the tribunes had become pawns of the senators. Remember, tribunes are elected officials by the plebeians, the common man. Corruption in government increased, particularly in the provinces, where officials often used their jobs to make themselves rich. There was economic changes due to this growth in empire or republic. In addition to politics, the wars also hurt farming in the Italian peninsula. The small landowners of the republic, whose spirit had made Rome so strong, saw their lands either devastated by Hannibal's army or left unattended because of frequent calls into military service. To add to their problems, large supplies of cheap grain were coming in from Sicily, which means that farmers couldn't make money selling their own grain. Many small landowners who found that they couldn't compete in this changing market drifted to Rome in search of jobs. However, jobs were scarce. The large landowners around Rome were already using slaves who had been captured in the wars to work their land, and there was no large-scale industry offering other jobs. An unhappy, out-of-work mob thus developed in the city. In contrast to the poverty and unemployment of the masses, the riches of war pouring into Rome made some people wealthy for the first time. Wealthy landowners who had plentiful slave labor were encouraged to buy more and more land. Many stopped growing grain and switched to the more profitable production of olive oil and wine, or of sheep and cattle. This new wealth changed Roman attitudes toward the state. The traditions of public duty, self discipline, gradually gave way to greed and soft living. Civil War brews. Two brothers, a prominent Roman family, Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus, came to the support of dissatisfied masses of plebeians. In 133 BC, Tiberius was elected tribune. He believed that the decline of the Roman character could be stopped if the backbone of the old Roman society, the small landowner, were restored to its old strength. People needed their land back. To help this become a reality, Tiberius proposed a law that would divide the farmlands gained in war among the out-of-work farmers. He also wanted to make it against the law for any person to own more than a certain amount of land. Since his proposal would have taken away land from some of the richest, biggest families, a group of rich men had him murdered. 10 years later, Gaius was elected tribune. This is the brother of Tiberius, and worked on his brother's reforms. He was able to pass a land reform bill, and the wealthy were again alarmed. Many of Gaius' supporters were attacked. Gaius himself committed suicide. Rome was now the scene of bitter rivalry between the People's Party, supported by the plebeians, and the masses, against the Senate, the agent of the rich patricians. The country was divided by violence and civil war. Finally, Sulla, an able general and strong supporter of the Senate and the rich, restored order. Appointed dictator by the Senate, he doubled the size of this ruling council and limited the power of the veto, which was the plebeians' only political power against the Senate. Sulla's changes wiped out many of the gains made by the plebeians in their struggle for equality. And in 79 BC, Sulla retired, believing his work would be permanent. He had brought peace to the Republic, but his changes didn't last. During the time of civil strife, the army had changed. Traditionally, the Roman army had been made up of citizens who fought because of a duty to the state. They were loyal. Now the army included volunteer soldiers from the landless class who expected to get rich from the gains of war. Now they fight for money and not loyalty. They were willing to serve for long periods of time and were loyal to their military leader, but not the state. Under these conditions, a popular general could easily use his military power to gain political power. People were more loyal to the general than the president, the consuls, the tribunes. They only followed the general. Such a man was the brilliant General Julius Caesar. We'll talk about his rise to power. After a successful military career in the Iberian Peninsula, that's Spain today, Julius Caesar joined with Pompey, another military hero, and Crassus, one of the wealthiest men in all the world. Their support made it possible for Caesar to become consul, head of the Senate, in 60 BC. The three men formed the first triumvirate, which is a three-person governing body, and it ruled the Roman state. From 58 to 51 BC, the Gallic Wars saw Caesar conquer Gaul and extend Roman borders north to include most of modern France and Belgium. He also led his legions to invade Britain. These accomplishments made Caesar popular with the Roman people. The jealous Senate and the rich feared his growing power, ordered him to return to Rome without his army. Caesar knew that to obey meant imprisonment or death. Crassus had died fighting in battle with the Persians, and Pompey, he knew, out of fear of Caesar, had conspired with the Senate to ruin Caesar. So his friend Pompey betrayed him. On January 10th, 49 BC, Caesar brought his army across the Rubicon River, the southern boundary of Caesar's province, into the northern part of the Italian peninsula. He broke the law. The Senate told him not to bring his army back to Italy. By defying the Senate's orders to come alone, Caesar had in effect declared war on his former ally Pompey, who was in charge of the Senate. Today, the expression crossing the Rubicon means taking steps that commit a person to a set course of action, no going back. Caesar's set course of action was war. Afraid of the legions who were friendly to Caesar, Pompey and most of the senators fled to Greece. Caesar followed and defeated them. When Caesar returned to Rome, he became dictator. So, what about his rule as dictator? Well, during his 5 years of rule, Caesar made moderate reforms. These reforms were generally made to strengthen both Rome and Caesar's own power. He weakened the power of the Senate and the rich, but at the same time increased its membership to 900 by allowing more representation of the provinces. Roman citizenship was extended to persons living outside of Italy, an action that helped unite the Roman territory. In the provinces, taxes were adjusted, and the administration worked to reduce corruption. Caesar also reduced unemployment among the poor by creating public building projects. In addition, he introduced a new, more accurate calendar that was based on Egypt's ancient calendar with minor changes. It is still in use today. The Senate feared that Caesar meant to make himself king and establish a dynasty, a change in the government that would threaten the Senate's role in the selection of the ruler. A group of men, including Marcus Brutus, one of the best friends of Caesar, joined in a plot to murder Caesar. On March 15th, 44 BC, a day known to the Romans as the Ides of March, the plotters surrounded Caesar on the floor of the Senate building and killed him. Before his death, Julius Caesar had made his grandnephew and adopted son, Octavian, his heir. An heir has the right to receive the property or title after the death of its owner. The 18-year-old Octavian joined with Mark Antony, Caesar's chief lieutenant, to restore order in Rome after Caesar's death and to punish the murderers. They attacked Brutus and his fellow conspirators, defeating them in battle, which took place in 42 BC. For the next 10 years, Octavian and Antony shared absolute power in the Republic. Octavian ruled Rome in the western part of the empire, while Antony ruled Egypt in the eastern part of the empire. During the time that Octavian was shrewdly increasing his power in Rome, Antony had fallen in love with Cleopatra of Egypt, the ambitious queen. When word reached Rome that Antony had given Roman territory to Cleopatra and was plotting to seize the whole empire with her, Octavian persuaded the Romans to declare war on Egypt. In 31 BC, at Actium, a cape on the western coast of Greece, Octavian's fleet crushed that of Antony and Cleopatra's. When Cleopatra fled the battle, Antony deserted his men and followed her to Egypt. The following year, when Octavian landed in Egypt with his army, both Antony and Cleopatra committed suicide after failing to rally support against Octavian. Soon Egypt became a Roman province. Octavian returned to Rome and proclaimed that he would restore the government to a republic. Although he was careful to observe the forms of republican government, he still kept the final power in his own hands, largely through his control of the army. He was called Imperator, which means victorious general, a term from which the word emperor comes. In 27 BC, the Senate gave Octavian the honorary title of Augustus, previously reserved for gods, meaning the majestic. After a century of civil war, Rome at last had been united under one ruler. With the reign of Augustus, the Roman Empire began. So why was Carthage an effective rival to Rome? How was Julius Caesar able to gain enough power to become dictator? What did he have on his side? How did Octavian become supreme ruler? Who did he have to betray to become sole ruler of Rome?